Hello, everyone. So we just finished covering how to build a book class, and next we want to go over using that book class in our forms. So let's get started. What we have here is a basic form. We're not going to interact with this big gray box yet. That's our grid view. We're going to work on that later. But for now, what we have is a couple of buttons, and we're going to run some code when the form initially opens. We're going to use this book class that we built here. We're going to interact with this and learn a little bit about the book class that we've made. So for starters, let's use the first constructor here, which is just public book and no parameters. So I'm going to call that empty book here because it's not going to have any information associated with it besides the is available. And then so this creates my book here. First, the first thing to note is the variable type is type book. So when we make this class here, our variable type is book. This is variable name. We use the new keyword, and then that's calling the constructor. That is calling this guy right here. And when we add parameters, then we'll be calling this function. So this is what pre-populates all the data of our class. Currently, we know the empty book doesn't have any data, but that's okay because we can modify it. Empty constructor. Although we did add this variable here, so it's not completely empty, but yeah, here we have we're modifying the title, so we would be modifying this variable here. These are gonna, because it's an empty constructor, these are gonna be nulled or whatever the default might be for a string and an integer. This will, update the constructor here. Or excuse me, this will update the book class. This will update our empty book, specifically the empty book variable that we've created. And then let's just display it. Let's use this special, I keep wanting calling it f-string, that's what Python calls it. String interpolation, I think is what it's called. Title, and then we can do the squirrely curly braces and empty book title right here. We're going to copy this. No typos. So this will run immediately when we click run on our program. One other thing I need to change here to do that is right now it's opening librarian form. We want to open up user form on our application run here. So let's open up the user form, and then this should run right away when we run the program. And there we have it. There's our title empty constructor. So that ran right here before, this code ran before we loaded the form there. This is the code that runs right before. Now let's build a book with the other constructor. So now we're going to work with this constructor here, which is going to require 3 arguments. And there's private, so we're going to keep the scoping within this program. Private book, and then I've named my variable book. That should be fine. And new book. So we get no errors because we know we have an empty constructor. If we didn't have an empty constructor, this would tell us it needs some information here. A catcher in the rye. Classic here. And let's get the correct parameters put in there. So first parameter is going to be title, second parameter to be author, third parameter is genre. Genre is an enum. So we need to make sure that we use an enum in this last variable. First two are strings. That's fine. So now we've initialized a book variable here. Let's look at returning and reserving the book. Let's use these internal methods to update the isAvailable. So this is the reserve, book reserve. And then we can display that. I'm gonna copy this. We actually don't need any of this code to run when we. And then let's do title, and then we'll say is available. And then we'll read that variable. And we're going to do the same down here, except we're going to return the book. And this should modify our isAvailable book. And then we can look higher level with how we're going to interact with our database, or how we're going to modify our form, modify how we work with that information. But the first thing we want to check is this working as intended? So let's reserve the book. Perfect. isAvailable is false, meaning I've successfully reserved the book. Return the book. isAvailable true. Good. Now we know that the book is available to the system. Other users will be able to now reserve the book. So this is a very simple way of building a. First we built the class and then using the class, right? So now we've interacted with the class, and you can see that it's pretty nice and convenient for just creating little methods that perform actions. Now, of course, we could have written, we could have just modified this variable ourselves, unless it is protected, which I believe we've done. I'm going to test it. I'm going to test it myself, but I'm pretty sure private set here does what I was intending to do here. Inaccessible. Perfect. Yeah. So this prevents us from modifying that variable. We need to use this method here. So that's another explanation for what this private is doing. It's forcing me to use this reserve book method to modify this variable. So this protects your data and allows you to kind of send people who might be using your code through a certain path to perform a certain function. It protects a lot of functionality. And one reason you might want to do that is because when maybe you don't want to just change this value, this Boolean. Maybe you want to do a lot more when you reserve a book. and it kind of would mess with your code if someone was able to just switch that boolean on or off, right? Let's say I'm writing a lot more code after we reserve book. Maybe something happens on my form, maybe something happens somewhere else too. So by protecting that variable, we also kind of force the path of what happens when a book gets reserved. And so that's a pretty good way to kind of intuit how private variables are important in this circumstance. But yeah, this is a very simple way to use a book class. I hope this was helpful and demonstrative of how to build a class and use a class. That's all we're going to cover for now. Thanks for watching. Take care.